Massive apologies, Ian, for my delay in answering this. Took me a while to get the information together. Here we go. So the highlights, first of all, you've got more presets in fire mode. So you used to only have one, now you've got 8. Also, the digital inputs, when you're selecting particular speeds, also activates the fire mode. And then you can also change between setups. The drive's got 4 setups, and in fire mode you can still switch between the setups. Okay. So in the old version, you'd see that in your parameter set you'll have 2405, which is the preset reference. If that's activated, then you've got one preset reference. In the new version, the 5050 card, you now have these 8 off preset references that you can use, and you select them by a couple of 3 digital inputs, and I'll show you how in a minute. So what we're going to do is select 3 inputs, and these 3 inputs will select your 8 preset speeds. You use binary coded decimal to do this, and I'll show you in a minute how to do that. But you need to make 3 inputs to be ref bit 0, ref bit 1 and ref bit 2 for the fire mode. Okay. In the past, you used to have to make an input your fire mode activation input. Now all you've got to do, if you're using the presets, then all you need to do is to select any one of those preset inputs, and you'll go straight into fire mode and run at the preset speeds determined by what presets you've made, what inputs you've made on those 3 inputs. So now I'm going to show you on the keypad where you would change the settings to make this happen. So don't forget, we've got to look at where we put these preset references and how to select them, and then also we've got to put it into the fire mode to start with. So here we go. We need to go to 2400, so it's main menu. 2405 is where the references are, but we're going to go to 2400 to turn it all on first. So we have to go to group 24, which is off the page. So all I need to do is to press down to go to group 24, and now say OK, and there's fire mode 24.0. So if I say OK and drop into that, I can start changing things in there, or I can select any of the other things in there. Okay, so at the moment we're going to 24.00, it's disabled, so I say OK, drop into that parameter. You can see the cursor underneath the parameter, so now I can just toggle up and down and select what I want to select. Let's select enabled, run forward. That means now that it's saved there underneath the key, underneath the parameter, and what was in there before was bottom right hand corner. Okay, so now if we go back to status, no, we want to go back, so that we want to go into now the rest of the parameters to make sure that we've selected those as well. Just bear with me a second. So first of all, we're going to look at fire mode configuration, which is 2401. And that's open loop. I don't know whether you're open or closed loop, but let's pretend it's open loop for the moment, so we haven't got any feedback to say what pressure is or whatever. So it's open loop, and that's okay. What do we want to see the units in? Let's see it in hertz. This is the minimum reference of the system when it's in fire mode, which is 0, and then the maximum it can do in fire mode, which is 50 hertz, which should be, I guess, your top speed. Now you want to go into 2405. Now this is an array, and you can see that this is number 0 in the array, and it's the first preset reference. Don't forget it's in percentage for the overall speed, so it's you know, if you put 100% in there, it'll run at 50 hertz. So the first one at the moment, we've got nothing in 0, and I think really it might be an idea to keep nothing in that first value, so when we've got no inputs made, it'll run at the predetermined reference of 0, but this is up to you. So let's go to that's 0. That's how you would do 0. I've said OK and gone into 0, and I can change what the 0 value is. Now we want to go to 1. Oops, that's 7. 1, and at the moment it's 0%, and I want to put it to, let's say, I don't know, 10% or something. So okay, the first real reference, the second one really, but it's the first one here that's got anything, is now 10. And you would just go along now to number 2 and set what you want that to be, and so on. let's make that 30. So now number 2 is 30% of the overall, the maximum. And this is how you have to put your references in. And just notice when you're changing parameters, when you've said OK and saved it in, you'll see that that value is then underneath the parameter, and what was in the parameter before is bottom right hand corner. It's just an easy way of seeing that it's been changed. Okay, let's go back and we want to just check that that's out. Now 2400 is enabled, so fire mode's enabled. Fire mode reference source now are these things that are left behind, and if you're using your preset references in your fire mode, then you don't need to talk about reference sources. That's when you're not using preset references and using something, a signal coming from somewhere else. Just this other thing just to mention about this open loop and closed loop thing. That open loop and closed loop really is, you can choose whether you're in open loop or closed loop, and that means that closed loop control normally means that you've got some kind of feedback saying what the pressures you're running at or whatever, so you want to run in terms of pressure. So I just wanted to point that out really. Now the other thing we said that we had to do was to set these inputs to be fire mode ref bit 0, bit 1 and bit 2, and I want to show you quickly where that is. So that's in the digital input section. So obviously you're going to choose your digital inputs to be these functions. So you go to main menu twice, takes you back to the start of the main menu, and then I want to go down to group 5 because these are digital inputs. Okay, so let's go down to group 5, digital inputs and outputs, and say OK, and then select 5-1 because we want 510, 511, 512. So okay, 510 to start with is terminal 18, and that's the start. It's your start signal input. And we want terminals 29, 32 and 33. So let's go to 29, and we wanted that to be preset ref bit 0. Oh, okay, let's do 33. 33 and make that bit 0. Yeah, 33, make that bit 0. Oh, that was handy. It's right at the end of the list, so I went up instead of down, and there it is, look, so it's easy to find as well. So you go up, we select bit 0 and said OK, what it was before, so we said OK now, and what was said before, no operations, bottom right hand corner. So terminal 32 we want next, so that's 33, oops, so let's go back to 32, so that's, there you go, 32, and say OK, and we want to go fire mode bit 2, bit 1, that's the one we want. So now we've got 0, 1, and then finally we want terminal 29. We're going to change that to fire mode ref bit 2. So now we have terminals 32, 33 and 29 all programmed up to be bit 0, bit 1 and bit 2. So here's another way of looking at this. We have a little truth table here, and the inputs along the top, terminals 29, 32 and 33. Just forget that value at the top just for a second. What we've done is we've looked at these terminals now, and we've changed these terminals in group 5 to be fire mode bit 2, bit 1 and bit 0. Make sure they're the right way around, 29, 32, 33. If you do it the other way around, it'll still work, but you'll have to do all the preset speeds in different positions. So how it works is, if you can imagine that these are in that array that we were looking at, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, the values, those percentage values are put in there. We'll select them depending on the inputs status. So if they're all off, you'll be at 0. If they're all off except for the first one, you'll be in 1. If they're all off except for the middle one, it'll be in 2. easy way to remember is those values at the top. So if you look at 1, 2 and 4 along the top, if you wanted to select 0, then you'd have none of them on, because all of them added together, none of them, you'd get 0. If you wanted 1 though, you'd have 0 and 0, you'd have no 4s, no 2s, but you'd have 1, 1. So there's 1. And if you want a 2, you'd have no 4s, a 1 under 2, and 0 under 3, because you'd want a 2. 3, you'd want a 32 on and 33 on, so that you had a 2 and a 1 added together. And 4, you can imagine you just have 29 on. It's binary coded decimal. So that's how it's working, depending on the inputs are made on terminals 29, 32 and 33. That will activate your fire mode, and it will also select the speed that you want to run at. Obviously, if you want to run at the last speed, number 7, you'd have to have all 3 inputs on. Okay, I hope that helps.